Welcome to this training video on building bespoke worksheets on Dr. Frost. So to build a worksheet from scratch, you can either click Set a Task on the main dashboard, or you can go up to the menu and set a task like so. Here is the option Choose Questions to build your own set of questions from scratch. When you go there, you'll see that you can now either add exam questions or you can add key skill questions and start building a bespoke worksheet for your students. So very simply, you can click into the box and now you can start adding exam questions. So let's make a worksheet for our GCSE higher group all about the volume of prisms. So we can filter by topic. I know that that is a shape, space and measure topic within Key Stage 3. I can also type up here and I can start just typing volume and I can find it this way as well. So there is the volume of a prism. Now, once I'm here, I've got lots of options to play around with. I've got my difficulty, so I can choose a certain level of difficulty questions, staying with that difficulty framework between 1 and 4. And I can also choose from a particular exam board. So perhaps I have the GCSE higher group and we work with the Edexcel exam board. So I can go to Edexcel and I can see there's 10 questions available for this skill, only from the GCSE higher Edexcel questions. So I'm going to filter down to this selection. I'm currently on difficulty 3, so I could go to difficulty 1. In this case, there aren't any questions, but difficulty 2, I can see there's plenty of questions to have a look through here. So it's very easy just to look through and see what type of question you want to go for. So I actually like to look at that triangular prism to begin with. I can now just say, use this question. I can then add on another exam question or a key skill question. Now, it might make sense before I start using exam questions to actually put the key skill questions in. So let me do that first. So I've just clicked on the key skill question and now I can go into here and I just need to make my selection again. So I'll just jump back into shape, space and measure and find my volume of a prism questions. Now I get offered a key skill question. If it's not quite right for me, then I can regenerate it until I'm happy with the kind of question that I'm after. So perhaps I want to start things off really simple. There we go. That's quite a good question for me to find the volume of a triangular prism. So I can say, use this. Now, as with lots of things on Dr. Frost, you can always change the order. So perhaps it makes sense to put my key skill question ahead of my exam question. So I've given them a little bit of practice. There's nothing to stop me giving a few more key skill questions before I add some more exam questions. But let's just go ahead and add some more exam questions. So I can look at my different questions. This one's quite similar, but I have got some density involved, so I can use that question. And then maybe I now want to add this one here. I've got a trapezium at the front, so maybe I want to use that question. Now that I've added that, perhaps I do want to put in another key skill question and just see if I can regenerate to something trapezoidal. There's one, so I would want to use that. Now I can decide, do I want that one to go just before it or do I want it to go ahead of the other questions? Maybe I want it to go in between question 3 and 4. Okay, now I'm going to add a few more exam questions. This time I'm going to just up the difficulty to difficulty 3 and have a look at the kind of questions that are available to me here. So I'm going to avoid anything to do with a semicircle, and I think that one looks like a nice set of a nice question just to kind of round everything together. So I'm going to use this question. Okay, now obviously this is unlimited. You could make a worksheet of 6 questions or 60 questions. It really doesn't matter. Once you're happy, then you need to save the worksheet before you go ahead and set it. So if I save this as the volume of a prism, then I can now set it to my students. So I can either set as an online task, or you'll see I've got the option to download. Now, if I click download, then you'll see that I can generate this, and this will make a Word document for me that I can then print and give out to my students as a worksheet. The benefits of this is that Once you download it as a Word document, you will get the full exam mark scheme for each question. So the answers will always be provided for the exam questions, and for your key skill questions, you'll get the full written method for how the students should approach the question. I'm just going to go and set this as a task to my students. So if I set a task, I've got the option to set this as a normal task or as a live task. I'm just going to stick with a normal task today. I can click continue, and then I've got my options here. So obviously I can choose who to set it for. Notice that I can set for multiple classes or individuals. I'm just going to set it to my test class. I can label it. I can decide to schedule this as an online task to appear on their dashboard at a specific time if I would like to. I can set it as an assessment. This would mean that the students definitely can't redo this unless I set it again as a teacher, and it allows me to decide when the students get to see the answers. But in this case, I'm going to set it as a classwork. Now, with the options, warn when wrong, you can turn that off to no if you would like to, but I think I will keep it on as yes. Now, the important thing to be aware of is if we're going to prevent reattempts or not. So the default is to say yes, prevent reattempts. The reason being that these are fixed questions, and so obviously there's just one particular answer that the student's looking for. You can select it to no, but just be aware that the students are not going to ever get feedback on any questions that they get incorrect, because obviously if Dr. Frost gives them the full solution, then they could just go back and write in the correct answers. So teacher preference, whether you want to prevent the reattempts or not. Require working, you can change this to yes, or you can change this to optional. And that means that when the student's working on the questions, then they can pull up the whiteboard and they can annotate the diagrams and they can write down their working. This is a really nice feature if you are using exam questions, because it means that you can potentially award method marks to your students. Require feedback. You can say if it's incorrect, then you want the student to write you a small comment for why they think they got it wrong, or you could say always. My preference is to say if incorrect. Require videos, you can keep that off, or if you say yes, then you'll see you're given the option of the particular videos that are available. I might think that it might be worth giving the students just the exam practice on the questions related to pressure, density, and rate of flow. I can see it's a 15-minute video there, but I think that's an important thing for them to see before they start the task. You can set a time limit if you want to. You don't want your students working any more than an hour on this question, for example. And then the last one is that you've got the accuracy measure. Now you'll see on this occasion, it's greyed out, and that is because I've got a selection or a mixture of key skills and exam skills. If I had built my worksheet only with exam skills, then there would be an option here to drop down and say to use exam marking. And this is a really helpful feature if you do choose to use it, because it means if your students leave you working, then you can always go back through once they've submitted the task, look at their working and award method marks if it's appropriate. Today, I can't use that feature because I added in some key skill questions. Okay, I'm happy with my options and I'm ready to set my task. So there are my questions set to my student, and as the student completes these, I will be able to see how the student has fared with those questions. Okay, I hope that is a helpful video for you to know how to build a bespoke worksheet on Dr. Frost.